Sometimes it can be tricky to know exactly what to focus on to improve as a street photographer, and honestly it can take much longer to get better when you don't know where to focus your attention. So in this video I'm going to give you 3 simple tips with actionable advice so you can quickly improve and take more eye-catching street photographs more often. So let's get right into it. Have you ever joined in to hear someone telling a story halfway through and you kind of get surprised or a bit confused about what they're saying because you completely missed the context? Well, that's exactly what you need to harness in your street photography, leaving out context to create curiosity and surprise. So how can we do that? Well, you want to try and capture a moment with a story, but also try to show it out of context. A moment like that can be far more powerful than spelling everything out for the viewer. Let's look at an example. I took this photo recently and in my opinion it's a striking image that prompts a lot of questions. Why is this man touching the face on the wall? Where is it? What's going on? What does it mean to him? The lack of context is what makes it an exciting photo. If I told you that it's a tour guide at a religious monument in Georgia, it adds context, explains what's going on, and the image sort of loses some of its magic, some of its appeal. Also, if I'd stood from further away and captured more of the environment, that would have given more explanation as to what's going on, and it wouldn't be as good. If we can take a street photograph that makes the viewer ask questions by leaving out context, then this can be such a powerful tool, and it's actually quite simple to put into practice. One of the best ways to do that is with your composition, and knowing what to leave out of the frame to make the photograph more impactful. Someone who does this so well in their work is Magnum photographer Richard Calvar, who has such a great eye for finding these weird and wonderful moments, but then shows them out of context, making them even stronger. For example, in this photo, the simple way he removes context is by choosing what to leave out of the frame. It makes you ask so many questions, but when you find out what's actually going on in the image and the photo has context, it loses its spark and a bit of the magic is gone. And I'm not going to tell you what that is because I don't want to spoil the image for you. This photo, also by Richard Calvar, I have no idea what's going on and why there's a crocodile there in the fountain, which is why I love this photo so much. So think about how you might want to leave things out of your frame the next time you go on a photo walk to make more powerful images, leaving the viewer guessing. It might be tricky at first, but the more you practice, the more instinctual it will become to make more powerful photos by leaving out context. Here's a few more photos I've taken recently that I think work really well by leaving out the context. Now we know the power of context in our photography, let's explore how we can add more depth to our images. Oftentimes as street photographers we default to taking a photo of something happening because it's interesting or exciting, but then in the moment thoughts for composition go a bit out the window. I really think the more you practice and learn about compositional techniques, the more instinctual it becomes to put those theories into action when a moment does present itself. One of the best compositional techniques that is really versatile and fits into all kinds of genres of street photography is layering. So how can we incorporate layering more into our work? Well, there are a couple of ways of looking at layering. The first is by using your environment. So for example, you find an eye-catching wall, then start to build a more complex composition, taking a slower approach. You see where people are walking and see how they can fit into the scene. You can also look for objects that will make for eye-catching foreground elements, adding texture and abstraction. For example, reflections, or it could be objects on the street such as a lamppost or a car to block out areas of an image. You can then build up your composition to make a more layered and engaging frame than just a photo of something happening. People love frames, so if you can find a way to frame something up, this can add more visual interest and layering too. The second way to think about layering is to try and put something interesting in the foreground, midground and background, creating depth and visual enjoyment at multiple points throughout the image. If you're taking this approach, you also want to try and achieve some kind of balance. You want to think about how the subjects in your image relate to each other and the background. For example, if you're photographing a lot of people, you don't want too much overlapping. It's best to try and keep some kind of space around your subjects, let them breathe, and this will give you a more powerful frame. I'm planning on making a video dedicated to layering in the future, so if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments below. One of my guilty pleasures is watching MasterChef, and for those of you that don't know, it's a cooking competition on TV here in the UK. The dishes served up need to taste amazing, but also have to look the part too. Like any great chef, it's not enough to make a nice dish. There has to be something to it that makes it stand out in some way, elevating it to the next level to really stand out from the crowd and all the other chefs out there. So how is that relevant to street photography? Well, it all comes down to finding a twist, or a cherry on top if you like. In my opinion, great street photographs need a twist or something extra to elevate them from just being a snapshot of normal life out in public. So what exactly can a twist be? A twist can be anything that adds a little bit extra to the scene. An unexpected moment, a gesture, a funny or clever juxtaposition. Even better is to have a frame with more than one twist, and this is how you can really take your street photography to the next level. A twist can also be subtle, for example some great light or colour or weather conditions. Often I look at some photos that I think are really great, but I can't pinpoint the twist. It's lame, but the only way I can really describe those kind of photos that catch my eye is that they have a sort of intangible X factor about them. But just having the word twist in your head when you go out can go a long way to making better images. Think to yourself, I'm not just going to settle for some boring photos. If there's potential in a scene, I'm going to really look and hone into what's happening. Then if something unusual happens, you'll be ready to capture it on your camera. For example, in this photograph which I took recently, I noticed this sign months ago and thought it made for an eye-catching scene. The red stands out with the black and white graphic eyes as well as the text, but what really makes the photo is the man in the frame is carrying 2 bicycle wheels. This is the twist. The sign says, "Cycle thieves, we are watching you," and you couldn't ask for a better subject walking past, carrying 2 bicycle wheels. If I'd just settled and taken a photo with just some random person walking past, not carrying anything, then it might still be an okay photo, but it wouldn't have the same impact at all. It was worth visualising the right shot with the twist in the back of my mind, and I got lucky when I was out in town, noticed the guy with the wheels and I legged it over to the sign. Unfortunately, it all lined up. But you make your own luck. If I hadn't been searching for a twist, I might have seen the guy with the wheels and never put 2 and 2 together and wouldn't have come away with that shot, which is one of my favourites I've taken so far this year. There are many interpretations of what could be a twist. This photo is one of my favourites from last year. The twist here is that there's direct eye contact looking back at you from the mirror. If there was no eye in the mirror or it wasn't holding eye contact with the viewer, then this photo wouldn't work at all. There wouldn't be a twist. As I said earlier, a twist can also be a little bit more subtle. It doesn't have to be super eye-catching. For example, it could be a character, an expression, a gesture, interesting light. There are lots of ways to include some kind of focal point that is not just something you see every day. And it's the job of the street photographer to figure out what that is and capture it. I'll make it my aim when I'm out to constantly look for twists happening out in the world to try and capture. But a really good twist or a moment is very rare, so I don't beat myself up if I don't capture a photo with a bit of a twist for a while. It's more about constantly practicing my observational skills and always looking out for something unusual that will really make an image pop. Noticing and then capturing a photo with a twist is a very difficult thing to do though, so don't worry about always having to find a twist. If you have a collection of work, a photo book for example, it would be quite exhausting if every photo was super eye-catching with a lot going on and each photo had a twist or multiple twists in it. So you can absolutely still make amazing street photographs without twists, like those quieter scenes. But if you're looking to make more powerful street photographs in the long run, then constantly observing for that extra special something to happen in a scene can make all the difference between getting an average street photograph and an award winner. Learning how to be a better street photographer takes a lot of time and a lot of practice, but we don't always have a lot of free time to spend on improving our street photography skills. So I made this video condensing 6 years of street photography experience into 6 minutes to help you improve quicker and also give you a few ideas for your next photo walk. As always, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.